Not a problem.
As I said before, my name is Ms. Marina Gathokleou-Sotiriou. I'm a monitoring and support coordinator here at the School of Doctoral Studies. And today with us, we have Dr. Bakr, who is going to provide tips on preparing interview guides. Thank you very much for this. So before we have Dr. Bakr presenting with us, I would like to do a short introduction on Dr. Bakr's background. Okay, so Dr. Hisham Bakr holds a PhD in Business and Management from the University of Southern Queensland in Australia. His expertise encompasses business development, marketing, sales, public relations, customer service, and executive management. Currently, he serves as a unit coordinator and lecturer at the Australian Institute of Higher Education, AIH, and the Victorian Institute of Technology, VIT, in Melbourne, where he incorporates global perspectives into his curriculum. Dr. Bakr's academic career includes positions as a lecturer at the University of East London, UEL, in the UK, and as an academic instructor at Unicaf University in Cyprus, as well as at the University of Suffolk and Liverpool John Moores University in the UK. He has established a strong international presence in education. In addition to his academic contributions, Dr. Bakr has substantial industry experience. He previously held positions such as the Chief Executive Officer, CEO, of Arabian Explorers Destination Management in the Middle East and North Africa, and the General Manager at Transnil Travel and Business Development Director at Cosmopetra in the Middle East. He is fluent in English, French, and Arabic. Dr. Bakr effectively engages with diverse student populations. His dedication to student success is evident in the positive testimonials that highlights his supportive teaching style. Through his research, he addresses contemporary challenges focusing on university social responsibility, corporate social responsibility, and customer relationship management, particularly in relation to the experiences of international students. Once more, thank you very much, Dr. Bakr, for being with us and for providing this presentation to all our doctoral students. You may proceed. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ms. Marina, for your nice introduction about my presentation today. So aligning with my PhDs that I did in overseas international students in Australia about how we can face as international students some kind of liminality, marginalization, and mental health issues. I would like to align my PhD research, which I was proceeding in 4 years in Australia before and after the COVID. So aligning with this, I have gained lots of ethical considerations I would like to share with international students around the world. And it will be highly reflecting in my preparing interview guides for having an effective interview guide that will facilitate and enrich your research outcome dramatically. So proceeding from this point, I'm going to just share my next slide. So defining the learning objectives today in today's seminar or webinar, we are going to go through how we can define the purpose of our interview scripts or guides, how we can formulate our questions, and how we can make the structure for a very insightful and fruitful guide how we can ensure the alignment with the research objectives and aims, and how we can pre-test the guides finally or before finally, how we can use appropriate logistical tools or consideration to have a highly effective outcome of your research, and how we can link both the final review and ethical consideration, both aligned together to formulate, refine, review, and focus on aligning this. The first step, actually, we are going to clarify the research objective. So the first step in your research outcome. So actually, I'm teaching 35 MBA students with the University of East London, and I have very insightful researchers from everywhere in the world. I'm very happy to supervise and align those candidates with a very insightful research. I'm even expecting that maybe 4 or 5 impressive research from the students I was marking and teaching deserve some kind of further publication and maybe co-authoring from my side. So this is how to define your research objectives. So clearly identify the topic of your research and clearly identify what you need exactly to search or to proceed for your research. So if I'm going to discuss about the CRM, for example, so clearly identify what is your currently aim for doing research on CRM. So you are going to specify what kind of objectives. Let's take an example from my side. If I would like to consider that many multinational organizations are considering the CRM as robots that are dealing by default without having a personal intervenience, which is minimizing the impact and influence for the CRM. So we need to link the CRM, how to use an appropriate usage for the CRM to assess mental health behavior and eye tracking methodology, sentiments analysis to maximize the benefits of a sales company or sales organization. So defining the purpose, defining the topic, and align what you need based on what? Based on literature review, based on some kind of gaps or shortage or lack of performance in the topic you are going to select. Furthermore, you are going to clarify the objectives, have a broader and overview about what kind of methodology for having deeper analysis you will be able to have a qualitative gathering for your data or quantitative data, what kind of financial capacity you might have, or what kind of financial capacity or funds you might have by your university, etc. It depends not to have a challenging research methodology, not to make you struggle during your data collection and data analysis. Second subsidiary step of the first heading of our today's webinar, it will be the target audience. So the second step, I'm going to identify what will be the demographics or the background of my interviewees. Am I going to collect data published on over the internet, or am I have to proceed for interviews or focus groups? In such cases, I need to proceed for ethical consideration, etc. I'm going to talk later during today. And I'm going to tailor my guide, what kind of the age range, gender, selection, ethics, background, culture, countries, etc. And then I will have the prospecting target audience clear in my research. Before proceeding to formulate the question, you need to have your target reasonable and you have a good rationale. So doesn't make any sense to have a very wider sample of your target audience, which make your data collection and analysis very complex and very challenging. So the most important selection of your target audience to be reasonable, to have a good, strong ground and rational beyond your selection, how can you will formulate or analyze or going to deeper analysis for your audience without having any risk for your research successful achievement? So in such case, consider exactly your research as a project, and in project management, we should have a backup plan B, and sometimes in mega projects, we might have also a plan C for your research. What if the plan A fail for any reason? Or what if the plan A is a bit challenger, especially during the COVID? I have a plan A, I have paraphrase and reformulate my research to adapt the COVID-19 because I have a high risk not to achieve my research successfully because of lots of travel restrictions, etc. So it's an external environment, factors that you cannot control in your research. You have to be very fully aware about this kind of threats. And then I have been proceeded to a plan B that I was ready and adapting to the current situation during the COVID, having formulating a clear education policy and strategy for everywhere in the world, including the Australian universities. And it was been recommended by my PhD examiner that my research is recommended to be implemented in all the Australian universities and other universities everywhere in the world. I'm actually implementing some kind of advanced techniques with Unicaf and the University of East London, as well as AIH and VIT in Australia, because I can find the big proportion, mostly everywhere in the world, is international students. Even people who are studying through any UK or Australian university online, they are from everywhere in the world, and this is a remote advantage for online learning, which I'm really proud to work with Unicaf, leading and pioneer in the online education and teaching since decades. Everyone is doing very well. I'm very happy to join their team and to keep on collaborating with leadership. The first one of formulating the question, we have different type of open-end questions. We have some kind of probing questions. We do have also something we call the leading questions. Leading question, it is most probably considered about the unethical consideration, and I will explain for you very soon how we can use the leading question in an ethical consideration to extract and harvest the information, especially when you are interviewing leaders in multinational organization. So most probably the leadership in any biggest and multinational corporations that are not easy to reply to the specific questions of your research because they are truly and highly concerned about giving you the correct information and keeping some kind of high sense of confidentiality. That's why you have to be very expert in manipulating the way you are formulating your questions to start by an open-end questions firstly, which they can give you. I can give you an example. Can you describe your experience about did you enjoy your experiences? I might say yes or no, the first part of your research, and then you can say, can you describe your experience and how it influenced your perspective? So it's an open-end question. You can use it and integrate with some software for qualitative research called NVivo. NVivo is a very insightful and useful tool. I'm going to talk in more details in further slides. And it can make some kind of safe coding, keeping everyone's safety and mental health for the interviewees and integrity without harming anyone. And at the same time, we can code your information that you hide not to be published with your research, but you can revert back at any stage of your research and convert this to follow up in a future stage with the same interviewees to have participation in additional research you might have. So open-ended questions it is mostly used with the persons who are really concerned. If you are questioning or interviewing someone who is really concerned and very cold to answer with just yes or no, so you have to paraphrase your questions to have an open-end questions to stimulate the interviewee to talk. And I'm going to explain a very critical and crucial understanding terminology between what is the difference between stimulating and simulating. Usually we are going to use simulating. It is like copying your interviewee with everything your interviewee is saying just to encourage. If they are saying about the CRM is a very helpful and supportive tool to assess customer orientation, customer behavior, etc. You are going to say, yes, I agree. It's totally, yeah, I totally agree. So you are giving importance to your interviewee and you are giving such an enormous simulation to your interviewees that will encourage the person to talk more and more, and you are extracting any information that it might be hidden without proceeding to this kind of simulating to do what? To do stimulating the answer from your interviewee. So you simulate to stimulate. The only difference is a T. Starting by simulating to stimulate the information from the interviewee. And the second stage of the open-end question to have a very impressive research to proceed for a probing questions. What do you mean by probing questions actually? It's a kind of follow-up about the primary brainstorming with an open-end question just to say or to proceed for a deeper exploration and deeper analysis of this topic. If you have some good reflection or some primary reflections, you can say, can you elaborate more about CRM, about what was challenging, about any kind of topic as per your research topic. So do not confuse between probing questions and the leading questions. And it is very easy to make the difference between the closed questions which have a multiple choice answer with some selection as per Likert scale and with an answer with even yes or no. And open-end question, it is giving much more chance for everyone to talk, and you can extract knowledge and then you can build on it some kind of very insightful probing questions. And make sure that probing does not directly mean stimulating. As I was explaining, simulate your customer by encouraging to talk and proceed. They will proceed unconsciously to stimulate their participation with some kind of additional insightful built-in probing questions. You have to be expecting some kind of reflections with an open-end questions. What should be expected from your selection? On which basis you are selecting your interviewees, in which company, matching your topic, your research topic, and then you will be expecting, based on your expectation, you will be extending on some kind of probing questions that will insightful your analysis with a deeper follow-up questions and reflections. As I was saying at the beginning, formulating the questions can be some kind of confusion. There is a critical red line between the probing questions and the leading questions. But however, the leading question, I'm leading the interviewee to answer in a specific area I would like. For example, how much do you love our service? The first internal reflection for your interviewee will say, who told you that I love your service? So I'm leading unconsciously. Sometimes if it is not done in a very tricky, professional and expert way, your interview may consider your leading question is a bit silly, because who told you? You are not giving me the chance to brainstorm with my own description about your service, if it's good or bad. So you are considering that I'm liking or I'm loving your service, which is not ethical consider. And at the same time, you are indirectly forcing the interviewees to answer you. If some of the people are concerned or having a slight panic, you should stop immediately if you do have any leading question in any topic, and be very careful about the mental health of your interviewee, which I'm going to talk with very more details at the end of this presentation. So the structure of the guide or script, some universities are calling it's academically very well known, the script, your interview script, like any scenario for making interview, for selecting your candidates and making some kind of script. You should consider some script to share with your audience, and you should share the same script with your interviewees enough time before the interview time, date and time. You should consider enough appropriate time for everyone to read the script and email or contact you if there is any concern or any discomfort about answering or participating in your research. To enhance the participation, you should do that enough time as per your research complexity, and you should truly respect the interviewees' desire and needs. If they need to eliminate any of the script you are preparing to them, you should be very flexible. If you are not able to convince them in very professional with extra information or clarification to accept and consent, you should respect fully the interviewee's needs, and you should eliminate any discomfort questions you are including. So it is mostly having three major parts. So the introduction part, just having a brief introduction about your research, what is your research outlining, what is the purpose of the interview, and why the interview is necessary, how long you are going to stay with your interviewees, if it's focus group or not, what is your expectation for further participation and for how long, what kind of intervals between the primary focus group interview or meeting and the second one and the third one, and take into consideration highly not to have the interviewee or the participants fatigue, because if you are exhausting the participants in much more stress, sending emails and following up very strictly, you are risking or you are taking very high risk for many of them to apologize and cancel their participation. So try to be logical, try to have a good balance, rational, try to have some kind of simulation to engage and stimulate the participation for a further research. Try to have the focus points or to have your script to the point in a very minimal time, and analyze deeply from your own side as per you wish. The second part is the thematic or the thematic section. You have to follow up questions in a very reasonable to align the research objectives. Let's take the CRM. If I would like to analyze the CRM in any multinational organization, or especially the travel agency around the world. So lots of international and multinational travel organizations around the world that are truly and purely focused on benefits. They are making billions of dollars. However, the real sense of corporate social responsibility is not truly oriented or is not ethically addressed. So I did a primary submission to the Journal of Travel Research about some kind of alliances, expected alliances between the biggest multinational organization in the travel sector and aviation, and how we can maximize the benefits through some kind of green implementation of the corporate social responsibility and how we can address that. So in my thematic section, I was organizing, for example, the primary set of questions. Did you have any option of choice between two companies? One of the companies is participating in the corporate social responsibility, donating for any charity program or increasing and supporting the education around the world. People are studying under streetlights in many of the developed countries without having the need to specify which countries exist, but we do have plenty of places around the world. Students are studying under the street lights because they are very poor. They don't have education support. Where is your role as an organization to have this thematic section or organization? So I should ask, do you have two choices between two companies? You are going to select the company which is or who is participating in CSR, corporate social responsibility, or the other one which or who did not participate. I will have a primary set of reply or responses. Based on the reply, I'll have a second sets of questions. And if you have one of the companies that you selected that is participating to the CSR, which one you select, a true participation to the CSR or a fake participation just to maximize the benefits, and so on. So I'm going to start by open-end questions. Firstly, I started by closed questions, and then I proceeded to an open-end question just to have some more space for me and for the audience to brainstorm with the group. And then I was analyzing and breaking down. I was using something which is truly very important to use it in research techniques and interviews, which is called the semi-structured way to interview. The semi-structured way to interview, that means very simply that you must be ready to adapt your interview script promptly during the conversation, just to adapt as per the responses. Your expectation might be true with a high percentage of accuracy, but what if it falls during the remaining inaccuracy of 20% of failure in your expectation? So you might be ready to adapt your script instantly in a very professional and accurate without breaking the ethical consideration of your research, which is very important to understand very well before proceeding to your research. And through these dynamics, to use semi-structured way for interview, using open-end questions and some probing questions, sometimes if I found back and forth, especially from the leaders at the top organizations, they will never share the reality with you. You need to play back and forth, but you must respect highly the ethical consideration without having anything to harm your interviewees or to break the ethical considerations that your research must fully follow and as per your university ethical approval. After your script, you have to ensure that mapping your questions, aligning with the objective. Each question should connect directly to some part of the research goal in a step. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. But recommended, and I highly advise not to make your interview or data collection very long. It will make fatigues for everyone, especially you as a researcher. You will have lots of interruption, lots of inconvenience, lots of apologies. I'm sorry, I'm not able to attend. It will make your research longer and longer. So try to be concise and precise as much as you can to map your questions in very shortly and short time frame to meet your research timelines and objectives. Especially you have timeline, you must respect your research timeline and finish on time, exactly as a project. If you exceed your timeline, so it will impact your research efficiency and how to be impressive or not. Regularly review, as I was doing and implementing during my PhD research. So I was regularly review to ensure my research questions are serving. Once I was finding the restrictions for the COVID-19 is going longer and longer and harder, especially in Australia, it was highly restricted restrictions all over the world. It was the Australian restrictions for borders closure, etc. So how can I must insist to specific research questions, and I have external factors I cannot control. You must be reviewing your guide. No, this review was suitable before starting because it was before the COVID, but while I was proceeding and after ethical consideration, I found lots of factors that must be adapted. So I had to go back again and take another approval matching the paraphrased or adapted research as per the necessary ethical approval, which I was using, where I was using some kind of auto ethnography just to make it easier for the ethical consideration. I'm reflecting my reflections using the self-reflection theory and critical incident and linking to a business and management theories and principle, defining and aligning a triple win business approach that I was defining and concluding in my research. And also I was defining the 38 new definition for the corporate social responsibility that most of all the organization, especially the multinational organizations, should have a green, pure, clean corporate social participation and not a fake one just to increase their benefits and revenue without having in real interest to support the communities. How to play this? I was considering business organizations are not a non-profit organization. So everyone should collaborate once they will find benefits. That's why I was linking my 38th definition that I'm still keeping lots of confidentiality and lots of advanced level of implementation while I was having some strong ground to implement with the real institutions to participate. So I was linking with something called the triple win business approach. You will have much more benefits and revenues, especially at the universities everywhere in the world. For what reason? For one reason, universities are not a non-profit organization. So if you consider universities as a business organization, universities should implement the strategy of the CRM and consider the students as a customer, and keeping the academic integrity as well, to respect academics and lecturer while proceeding to a customer service to the students. Because this way you will engage your students and you will have a students' loyalty. Your student satisfaction will lead for loyalty. And once you are loyal, you are going to promote your place in a direct way. So loyalty, and then you be promoter to your place. And you will be, after the promoting, you will be engaging, you will be influencer and approaching and leading much more business to the place because you are happy with the service. So how I was aligning the corporate social responsibility with the CRM, this is the key points that I was aligning with my research objectives, that you should be innovative in your research to let your research be impressive among others and complement and continue after previous scholars to have something very impressive to share with the humanity. So flexibility to adapting, as I was explaining, it should be very highly considered because you will never expect, especially once you have disaster, you have flood, you have earthquake, you have lots of countries around the world, they will have electricity cut off for weeks and months sometimes. I know people I was teaching, so they don't have electricity, they don't have internet, they are stuck, not being able to submit their submission. So you should consider this and integrating some kind of teaching technology called the code switching, especially once you are dealing with people with multilingual or background. You must consider the needs for mental health orientation, especially if you understand this, you are going to address this very carefully and very professionally into your interview, to respect the people culture and backgrounds, to respect the customers or the people's needs, and to understand very well how to address a common and core value or place to discuss all kinds of needs and objectives for your research, while respecting everyone, while encouraging everyone regardless gender, religion, or any background or culture, or difference of languages or languages barrier. You have to adapt this very carefully, respect everyone as per your ethical consideration. What kind of ontology, epistemology, and axiology? This is a tricky and very complex part of any research, actually, but I'm going to simplify. I was very happy with many of the students, actually, from the University of East London that shared with me. One of the students said to me, "You are making the complex uncomplex." So I was very happy, and it was my first time to hear this expression, which I was truly happy. It's very simple. Ontology is a reality. Epistemology is the knowledge, and axiology is the value or ethical consideration. So once you break down the ontology, I'm going to take the ontology of the CRM, customer relationship management. The customer relationship management, the reality that was existing, that it is system or any kind of management framework to analyze your customers' needs, your customer orientation, customer behavior, etc., and address specific phenomena or questions. The epistemology, that you should have the knowledge existing, that should have the knowledge that is existing, that everyone is working by default. As I was saying to you, CRM is a robot for unlimited organization, especially the biggest one. We are not dealing with IT. We are not, dealing with AI. It is a big part of AI, yes, but we are dealing with a system, even it is the super advanced CRM system and software around the world. Sometimes you need to adapt internally through some kind of integration directors or manager, because you need to align. If you purchase a software in the travel industry, how many travel agency or tour operator do you have in your country? How many travel agency do you have around the world? How many external factors, like the taxes obligation in each country and the taxes fluctuation and the currency fluctuation and lots of economic and financial issues that happen that you cannot control easily. So your CRM should be and must be adapted as per your internal objectives and aims. That's why if you deal with a software that you paid a lot of money, you will not have the very insightful usage of your CRM. However, if you integrate some AI integration, which I was doing actually in some part of my research, so I'm planning to have an advanced level of integration of AI into the CRM to have a real-time updates about the sentiments analysis, about the eye tracking methodology, and how we can integrate both of them, how we respect the ethical consideration and the human rights that is broken in most of the organization, and how we can align this with a true confident way to maximize the benefits and at the same time support our people. We do have something called dynamic power. Dynamic power. I have a dynamic power as a salesperson or sales manager because I do have the data for my customers and I do have some tracking of my customer behavior. However, I have an obligation as a sales manager to use this confidential data properly, not to share with anyone without anyone consent. Unlimited and mega organization are broken these rules and sharing the confidential data for maximizing their benefits, which is not good, which is not reflecting customer satisfaction and customer loyalty. And they are thinking they are broadening their sales ground. However, they are dropping down their sustainability line while having inappropriate epistemology about how to use this knowledge in a very true way. But however, I can use some kind of integration to have some sentiments analysis and some kind of integration about the confidential data like date of birth and sending some emails and message to people. Happy birthday to you today. We hope to make your day special. So it is reflecting some kind of stimulating the same previous customer I have in a different way to have this customer back again and increase the customer's loyalty and perception about the way I'm using the epistemology in my business management or in my research. Axiology, actually, it is the ethical implication, ethical consideration you should call. What are the value or what are how to gain trust for people? You should have a value that you are going to reach by your research quality. So if I'm going to integrate those or these three dimensions, your interview guide can remain very relevant and you can enhance and reach in the data collection. If you proceed specifically to the pre-testing the guide, we must have pilot interviews. So how do you mean by pilot test or pilot interviews? So in my research, for example, once I was structuring my script, I was sharing with three supervisors I have in the primary stage of my research. So I was sharing with them. So I was sending a pilot interview script, a real one on monkey surveys. And I was sharing the replies and responses about that just to give me a real and true and professional reflection and feedback if my questions are truly clear or it has to be paraphrased. Again, because many of us are multinational people. We are dealing with English, but not all of us are native English. So while we are using English skills, sometimes we have some poor performance because we are not English native. Even we are talking very professionally, but it's not our native language. So in paraphrasing, in editing your research questions or research, you have to be proceeding to pilot interview. Make sure that another third party or another set of small group addressing some shortage in your interview questions, test your guide effectiveness, if it is working well, and what you did find into your pilot interview, and then this is called the pretest, having some key feedback from your colleague or participant about the clarity and so on. Logistical consideration, it is very important. As I was explaining earlier, if you are exhausting your interviewees about many interviews, do respect that many of them are working, especially if you are interviewing leaders in organizations. They don't have time. You have to consider that your interview script is to the point, cut and short. Because if it is very lengthy, people will be distracted and will not participate until the end. They will have plenty of excuses. Sorry, I have to leave now. It is impacting your interview outcomes or your research outcomes. So not to duplicate the interviews since the start, consider who will be my interviewees. Match your timing after having the confirmation from every one of the participants. This is a convenient date and time for everyone. Have some kind of vote. Sometimes it is very helpful to send some kind of vote or pull some campaign to have some alternatives for your interviewees and try in a very professional, smooth way to convince everyone without pushing or stressing any of them to accept the convenient time for the majority. But try and consider also the risk. What is the expectation from the correspondence you will have? How many people will not attend? Like my webinar, for example, I was expecting such a number. Some people just 5 minutes before drop me an email and say, sorry, doctor, I'm not going to participate. So it is expected. It is normal because you are all human. We have personal needs. We have consideration. We have some unusual circumstances that might happen anytime. So you should consider this. Do not be upset or stressed if this happens, because this is life, and you should consider some kind of resilience and flexibility while having the logistic consideration and which should be the best convenient. If you are doing the interview remotely, like the one we are doing, just consider and test your system many times before the interview. Make sure that you have a sustainable connection. Make sure that you will have a backup plan. What if my internet connection or my electricity power has any disconnection? Have at least 2-3 alternative options and tools. What if this happens? I'm backupping. Like now, for example, I have 2 laptops. I have 2 backup. I have 2 screens. And I have an alternative and backup plan. What if anything happened I was not expecting? I should consider just to make your webinar successful and to the point. This is exactly the logistical consideration you might consider before proceeding to the review, final review. The final review of your research, you need to read the full research and the full guide scripts. To ensure the clarity, you proceeded already for the pre-test. You have some feedback from your colleagues, from your supervisors, from your academics, from your university, and support team, etc. So you must align all these research objectives to align. And even I was doing the same before proceeding to this presentation. So I was collaborating with the Dean of Research Doctoral Studies, and she was, Dr. Olga was generously shared some valuable information that I'm going to share with you during my next slides. It was expecting to brainstorm and discuss it during my question and answer, but however, while I was sharing some kind of primary script about what I'm going to discuss and so on, so I have a very useful and insightful feedback from the Dean of the Research Study School, and I'm going to share with everyone just to enhance the research objectives skills. And adaptation as well, it has to be very, very highly considered. The power dynamics, as I was explaining, it is the most commonly consideration of your power. You have some data that you are going to use for your sales campaign, for example, but you must use this power. You need to control, you know, the purchasing history from any of your clients. How can you use this power dynamic as an organization or as a sales manager working for a business organization, and how to create another balance between the power dynamic for your client. You have a very good plan, but however, the customer has a financial purchasing power. They have the decision, yes or no. I like it, I don't like it. So you have to create a power dynamics balance between the interview or during the interviews. I'm explaining in business organization how it works in a professional manner, but however, the power dynamics, the way which power is distributed and expressed between the interviewers and the interviewees. If I'm going to interview some people working in the travel sector or the aviation sector, so I have to make some balance. It didn't make any sense that I'm going to say we need to create a charity organization, because every one of these sectors, we know by research and by experience and by professional practical experience that nearly all of them are purely looking for benefits and money, profits. Very few are corporate social oriented. Among those very few, people are doing corporate social consideration in unethical or non-ethical way just to maximize their revenue. However, the real participation to the corporate social responsibility do not exist. Again, how to create this power dynamic, you need to create a balance. I was creating this power dynamics balance in my research by saying, if you need to have this opportunity, excellent opportunity to increase your benefits, you are going to follow my rules. However, you are going to participate in a real green and sincere participation and support your communities in education, in health, in housing, providing affordable houses for people who are affected or influenced from earthquake. It's not an easy way, however, it's a necessity for you. If you need more money, you have to pay some of this money to your communities in a real way to enhance the level of higher education around the world. A good person who is really educated will have a good health culture, who will participate in a real gross domestic product for any countries. And these gross domestic products by good healthy people working with good health will increase a good level of sustaining or maintaining a good level and decreasing or decreasing the level of poverty in any place. So it's the power dynamics you should use. It is different. I can say this is a power dynamics in one example. You should adapt the power dynamics as per your research, how you can distribute this power between the interviewer, who will be you, yourself, and the interview or the participants. Among these dynamics, you can conclude control for the interaction, influence also for some kind of social context, different personality as cultural diversity, especially for people who are speaking more than one language. You should be much more professional in understanding this, because you can understand more than one culture background, and especially also for people who are traveling and living abroad or overseas rather than their own original country. They do have much more power dynamic and communication style, because they can understand as per the culture. They know how to address the code switching techniques in the interview, especially as a smart and professional lecturer and teachers who have an understanding about something called the code switching. They can switch between different languages while it is conflicting with the communication skills. Let's say I'm going to explain the code switching in a very brief explanation, just to understand if you are talking more than one language, for example, French and English. So you do have French people, native people, and you understand you are also native French or native English. So you are switching between some kind of groups of participants by interpreting at the same explanation or interruption. You are talking to them in the main language of the participation. In the communication theory, it is not truly appreciated to do that. But if you are using this in the teaching, because while you are using in the communication, people are start thinking, you are talking about me, you are talking about something bad about me. They don't understand you. Even if you are converting your message in a different language to them, they will not trust you easily, especially if there is lots of power dynamics as per the culture background, race, etc. They will start, so you will lose control of the communication room or skills if you are doing that. But however, if you understand, just to drop maybe one or two words in some people, so I can see you didn't understand my point, so you can explain just one or two word in the native language, because I understand it's a bit difficult for someone to understand what you are sharing with them. So we are doing this in teaching techniques just to give some times for people who has a specific background or culture or language, just to have some kind of resilience and flexibility to form groups as per their comfort zone, so they can be able to connect and communicate all together with the native language they have. So it is increasing and enhancing the level of teaching, level of sharing the knowledge between everyone, especially in the multinational culture. So you can build trust and rapport with respecting everyone. Make a balance between the power dynamic. Do not be selfish in your questions. Do not have many leading questions, because you are leading people, you are stopping people to brainstorm freely without having a real zone or comfort zone to brainstorm as per they wish. This will impact your research quality, because you led people to answer you in this zone. But however, if you give an open-end question and then another complement deeply questions that you might have and share with them just to enhance the conversation, it will be much more insightful to build the trust and build a rapport, which is a French terminology. Rapport means a link or creation a link. This is even sales techniques we are using, how to create rapport with the customer. So you should simulate and then stimulate and then be respectful, be transparent, be credible and open with the customer. People will gain trust on you and will try to collaborate, and then you will be having a customer satisfaction, loyalty, and you will have plenty of promoters that will promote for your business free of charge. Informed consent is the most important part. So at the beginning of the introduction, I was sharing at the primary slides, you should have a ethical consideration at the introduction section. So you will introduce your research, you will explain your research aims, objectives, clear information about your study, and explaining some kind of potential risk. What if you find at any stage of your research is this kind of risk? Every research has different risk that should be discussed with your supervisor. If you are doing doctoral, PhD study, you should contact your supervisor to let you know what are the potential risks. And it depends, because it's a multinational webinar, so you should contact each country has specific regulations and rules to have an ethical approval as per the risks, especially if you are doing experiments on human being. So You should avoid using children, mental health people, and every country has a law and regulations that you should comply to, and every university has ethical consideration and ethical approval with the ethical number before proceeding to any data collection. You must have an ethical approval number to start your research. And in our case, only written consent is accepted by Unicaf. So you should have a clear documentation of the participants' agreement before the interview begins. And you should have an approval, and then you will start doing your interviews. After the interviews, you're going to start data collection. You're going to specify which kind of convenient methodology I'm going to use, qualitative methodology. The most appropriate tool is SPSS IBM tool that you can extract numerical data and convert to graphics very easily, or you can use NVivo software, which is very convenient and very easy, very deep analyzing your data, especially through the open-end questions. They are extracting the frequency and repeatance of some kind of terminology like quality, highly considered, impressive, etc. So you should have some keywords that are all equal to one indication for you as a researcher. And you should feed the NVivo by these keywords for each script you are going to convert. Because this qualitative data, NVivo will work automatically after uploading your files and your interviewees' responses. However, this has to be coding by you as a researcher properly to reflect a good impressions about the research. And afterwards, you can convert this qualitative data to numerical data. You can have coding of the customer's confidentiality as well, that you are keeping all the information that you stored in NVivo confidential without sharing any information about any of the customers by coding them. However, as a researcher that you took approval from your interviewees, you can revert back with your university at any stage of your research and even after the research as per the consent information report to extract this data and take another approval from your interviewees if you need them to participate in any further stage. Or you can ask them, do you want to share your reflections during the interview to be published? Some of them can say, yes, I'm very comfortable with that. I'm very happy. Other people will say, no, I'm truly concerned. So you should work this in case by case, is per the truly needs of your research to be very impressed. The emotional well-being actually is very important. Some people can still be very panic. However, they are very concerned to excuse in front of other interviewees that are participating. So you should read the emotional well-being of the participants. If you find any of them in any situation that you feel it is a discomfort situation, you should ask the participant, are you okay? Would you like to withdraw from the research? You can do that if you are not happy. But I don't recommend to say this strictly to the participants. Otherwise, you will have many of them say, no, I don't like to participate, and you will lose all your efforts previously done. But you should consider this to avoid any future issues at the time of the interview, and include in your script to avoid any leading questions that can create any panic. And while you are telling the probation questions, make much care about not to have the critical line passed between the leading questions and probing questions. Sometimes if you are not paraphrasing the probing questions properly, it is considered leading questions. So to avoid any one of the participants say, no, I'm sorry, I don't like to answer, I'm going to go. And then the most important, all the confidentiality. As I was saying, NVivo can maintain this confidentiality while having clearly and securely storing, sharing, and making anonymous the data to maintain their privacy. So coding will help the confidentiality. They are excluding any personal identifier to support this term, which is very, most of the people who are participating, they can easily search about this and they know very well the softwares if they accept to participate. But you need also to share with them. So do not worry about your confidentiality because we are using some software called NVivo and they can go, they can search, they can know how can NVivo is working. So, and reflecting your transparency in a practical way will gain you the credibility of your research. If you say something, you promise, do it. Do not change. Do not say, yes, we are keeping confidentiality. However, you are using this information in a non-ethical way just to gain access and finish your research early, because you will have potential harms for people and also a legal commitment and consideration against you and your university if you don't respect. Any kind of questions that may cause discomfort, please do avoid or minimize. Again, some research you must play back and forth. You must use some kind of driving the interview. Avoiding any place that will harm you and the interviewees, and at the same time, you must be very careful in leading the questions script using some kind of advanced semi-structured way that avoid completely any distress or discomfort, because you need to extract and stimulate the knowledge and information from your interviewee, and this is the main reason you are meeting with them to have some responses. If it is sensitive topics, try to handle them very carefully and smoothly. Be very careful about the different diversity and different culture, because the same message could be misunderstanding by someone who is not with the same culture or background as you. So you have to be mostly neutral in your questions that will not be understood by any of the participants' norms or culture in a different way or misunderstanding by any of them. To have the clear usage of your language, if you proceed for the pre-test, I was telling you with your supervisors, with some of your colleagues or friends of some of the communities or posts, if you have some ethical consideration, you will avoid completely any questions that are not clear. If you do the pre-test and find many of the participants say, I don't understand really what you mean by your questions, you must have a meeting with your supervisors and paraphrase your questions again, to be very clear and precise and to the point. It is not a matter just to have a question matching and aligning to the research objectives. Why you are putting these questions there? Because it is matching and aligning one of the objectives and aims you need to reach by the end of your research. Do not be generic. Do not talk about something generic. Be very specific. Even your research questions, after specifying your research topic, you need to precise at least 2 or 3 short questions, very precise to the points to have the focus point of your research. If you need to talk about the CRM, you need to paraphrase. I was paraphrasing 2 or 3 questions for my CRM plus CSR focus point. And I was focusing on the quality. I was focusing on liminality, marginalization, mental health, because I'm extracting some emotional behavior from my students that I considered as a customers and that are considered as a stakeholder for universities. And I was planning and drafting how can I have a higher education policy matching all kinds of multinational people around the world, how we can match and align the needs for online business and education, because it is affordable. It is very convenient for many people because of visa restrictions around the world, specifically in the developed countries that are completely impossible to have a visa to go to any of the countries that they have highly restricted immigration policy. And then you will have a broader podcasting for equality education if you are using some kind of techniques and integrity for the students' consideration, and at the same time, not ignoring universities' need. They need also to increase the business and have more students to have more money and more profits. During the interviews, you have to be very attentive listening, and you have reflecting. Do not fall in one of the major problem about thinking about the next questions you are going to paraphrase, because if you are highly concentrated about what you are going to do or to ask about finishing, you will miss the active listening. But however, train yourself about having both of them in parallel, active listening and preparing for the probing questions effectively, because as I told you in the same structured way, while you are active listening to an open-end questions and managing the flow of the conversation and making notes at the same time, because you need to make notes during the interviews, in addition to the recording that you are going to listen very carefully after finishing and recording the script. And you might share also the script and recording, the potential outcome and the recording with the participants in a convenient stage. And at the same time, you need to prepare what kind of appropriate probing questions I need to ask while I'm active listening to have a very deep analysis about this important information I have listened. Be neutral, but however, if you have to use some leading questions, you can use it. Be very careful, to be very professional, very skilled to use it to avoid any ethical problem and to avoid any withdrawal from your participants during the interview. So by reaching this, so I'm truly happy we do have more knowledge and information, but considering that we do have only maximum 2 hours for this webinar, so I would like to thank you, everyone. I would like to thank the Dean for the Unicaf University, Dr. Olga, and I have to thank Ms. Marina about supporting me during this webinar. I have to thank every one of your participants, everyone who considered 2 hours from their time, and many of you has been working. So thank you so much.